I guess my music locations didn't translate. That sucks.
They should. They should, yes. So the relative paths would be the same, like public versus your user data. Is it not?
There's not even the field isn't even like letting me even add. It's blank.
I'm not sure I follow.
Journals is blank.
Yeah, so that was the bug that you fixed. Did you refresh? With the yeah, you would need to refresh because of the file that you replaced.
Okay, yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's working.
Cool.
All right. Does someone want to recap, or you want me to do it? And Price is gone.
He's in the restroom. Sorry, guys. He's
I
coming.
guess I haven't done one of the recaps in a while.
Yeah, it would make sense to do that and then go right into kind of where we left off. We're gonna rewind a little bit, Andrew, to let Joe catch up on some of the stuff.
Don't worry too much.
Sure. So
I have DM questions as well for his narrative.
Why don't we recap first, and then maybe DM questions, and then whatever next.
That's fine. Yeah, let's do that first.
Okay, so last session we had all arrived in Kelvarat at the beginning of the session because we had been transported there out of the Minthara swamps, out of Balater, and we had kind of debriefed a little bit, and the conclusion was that I guess there's going to be some discussion sort of above us, and we'll be contacted the next day to try and learn like what the leadership at Kelvarat feels like is the right steps to take. In the meantime, we were discussing as a group, after kind of resting, recovering, cleaning up, organizing our belongings, getting things straightened out, kind of just recovering from like a really lengthy travel in the swamps. Joe was Owen was kind of resting up and cleaning up in his room. The rest of us kind of went our separate ways for a bit. Flora was wandering the grounds of the tower. Kalen was doing some of his sort of OCD rituals. In the meantime, Nashin was being a little bit more social. He encountered one of the other climbing companies, squad. Was this one Mogrash? What?
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Sorry. Yeah, so Squad Mogrash was at a sort of a trestle table type thing in the common area of the. So, clarification: were we like in Mogrash's guild hall, or like
no?
The actual building?
That's the
Guild Hall.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Vanguard of Honor, right?
Okay, so we were in the Vanguard. We're guests in the Vanguard of Honors Guild Hall, and Squad Mogrash, who is training under Gitrol, was also there, and they were at this table, kind of having a lively discussion amongst themselves, while sort of shrouded by this protective aura of magic that suppressed their conversation for those who are not immediately at the table. So Nashin kind of went up and introduced himself and got involved and actually began kind of entertaining Squad Mogrash with an animated narration of some of our events, like using some of his magic to kind of assist and add flair to the telling of the tale. It kind of won over the entertainment of Squad Mogrash, who enjoyed learning about the very strange events that had transpired for us. And they, in turn, told Nashin a story about some of their explorations into a strange, I think it was like a mine. Where was it, a mine or a crypt or something?
Yeah, it was a mine that were tasked to clear out of Knoll army that kind of came in, and there was something they.
Right. So initially they went in with Gitrol to clear it out of the Knolls, and they discovered something much stranger and much worse, a sort of strange creature. I think it was described as having like many legs. It was almost like spider-like or something, but sort of not totally organic, maybe.
Metallic half spider pulsing a red light.
Right. Yes, that's much better than what I had. Yeah, so it was metallic half spider pulsing with red light. Very formidable foe. They worried that they wouldn't have survived if not for Gitrol, who, with his help, they persevered. And anyway, so they were sort of telling that tale as well. And in the meantime, Mazakine, under the guise of kind of a half tally, went and joined them at the table, while Kalen and Owen and Flora were a little bit more around the perimeter. But eventually, like, they kind of separated, and we ended up having a more private conversation amongst ourselves. First at the table, kind of just debriefing on what happened, and then we went back to Kalen's room, I think, to be somewhere like a little bit further away from prying eyes and ears.
Mm-hmm.
And we got into a little bit of a heated discussion in the room, kind of about like what our purpose was. And this all started, sort of, Flora was, kind of challenging us to like be a little bit more transparent about our, identities or our background, seeing as she hadn't really been even sort of properly introduced to most of us. So we kind of went around and shared a little bit about ourselves, but that kind of led to a bit of a confrontation where, it's definitely clear that folks in the group have been holding back, as we all have kind of our modeled past. And it led to a little bit of tension where, there was some accusations thrown around. I think, there's some like Kalen Nashin tension. There was a little bit of tension on other dimensions in terms of like who can be trusted or who's kind of withholding too much information. And so both Kalen and Nashin ended up kind of being a little bit like pressured into revealing a bit more about their own stories. And so both of those stories were, to a certain extent, revealed. And then Discord turned to shit. So everything was bad, and the session ended promptly.
Pretty accurate.
Gotta love Discord.
Did we want a recap of Kalen's story that Owen would have heard?
One other thing I forgot in my recap is there's like a steward in the guild hall whose name is Julio, yes. And we all got a little bit of guidance from him about like different things we might want to pursue. And he told us that in the morning he was going to give us some advice about places to go to to shop or procure supplies or learn about next steps that might occur. He also said that we might be entitled to some compensation in exchange for facilitating this information that was brought to their attention. So that was a piece.
That is correct.
There was also a little funny bit where the innkeeper, where we went to join Squad Mogrash for dinner, Bodua, Mazakin inquired about some death cheese, apparently, as it's called by the dwarves. And Joe, Mazakin gave her a little sample of the cheese.
Okay.
And she started sprouting flowers from her head and turned green, right? Yeah. And just became a plant lady for a while, which was hilarious. And then after a couple minutes, it all fell out and she excused herself.
Let me just say that cheese is the most valuable thing we have as a collective party.
Yes, it is. We have, I think, 36 doses left. Doses.
Doses, indeed.
Let me double check
Okay.
that number. That number is the most important thing that we have.
She also
Yeah.
gave you a number of how much it's worth.
Yeah, 800 gold per cheese wheel.
Hmm.
Where did it go? 26. We have 26 doses left. There was one other thing. We haven't shared it yet, but Mazakin rolled a natural 20 on the history check for those metallic half spiders, and they were apparently machines used in the Blood War. But there's some difference somehow, though. They guard something specific, and they were a construct used by both devils and fiends, created and powered by soul coins, which are the currency of the hags in Hades.
And they're an outdated model.
Yeah, this one was an outdated model. It's very old, and Mazakin was surprised that it was still functioning after such a long time. And then, did you want to recap Kalen's story?
That's probably where we'll pick up the session. Is kind of like
Okay.
when Kalen's kind of explaining his background, as we had that tension between Nashin and Kalen and Flora, kind of explaining their backstories. So, is the audio working for you guys? I don't really know if it is.
I hear it
I
is.
just hear some like crowd
I don't
noise.
hear
Background?
anything.
Okay.
Audio wasn't working for us last time, though. It's probably best that we try not to
Use data.
overload our 5 megabits a second hotel internet.
Yeah.
But for the average user, 5 megabits is more than enough.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I know.
We'll have 300 when we move in.
So we'll pick up where the kind of the room is turned to Kalen, who has agreed to tell some of his story. And we'll just do it from the beginning so that everybody can hear it, wherever you feel is comfortable, Andrew.
All
It was
right.
like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Initial disclaimer. Kalen would have only told this once, and his details would have been precise. Andrew, the player, might not be able to tell the story the exact same way as I did before. So any like subtle contradiction or difference in detail is just me not being able to really remember exactly what I said.
Well, here's
not Kalen being sneaky.
Here's the beautiful thing, though. You didn't record last session.
Yeah, no,
So.
yeah, that's right. Also, I don't know if I'll be able to sort of feel the kind of conversation flow that we were in.
It's kind of abrupt.
Let me just recap it then. Unless you want to do it, Andrew.
Just to set the scene, where are we all at? Are we just in the hall here together, or
we're in Kalen's room?
Okay, so more of a private, intimate.
Each of y'all's rooms is a private space, like a large kind of apartment style room that has its own washing implements and like armoire for storing armor and things. It's made for a guild member. You could tell.
Well, I don't want to sort of, hog the microphone. So it's up to you guys whether you want like a brief
Hog
recap
it.
or whether you want
Go nuts.
Hog
Get
it
in
so I won't
character.
feel so bad about hogging.
Yeah, you got to get in character. Come on. Come on. Do it.
red leather, yellow leather.
Oubliette Arcanum,
yeah.
Fortress of Memories,
Yeah,
Raven Queen. What
yeah.
was Kaelin's task? Question mark.
The Irish wristwatch. Okay. So I think the initial question was something along the lines of like an accusation that I didn't remember anything. Or that I was just kind of like this hollow shell without really any sort of meaningful past. And so Kaelin responded by saying something along the lines of, I do have past passion, and I do remember much of what happened to me, despite what you say. The tapestry of my memory is not wholly unraveled, it is only partially destroyed. And I do have a story I can tell if I must. As I told you, I am a Shadar-kai, and I hail from the plane of Shadowfell. It's a bleak realm that is foreign to you, and yet similar in some ways. I had a fairly uninteresting past, at least probably uninteresting to you. You might think of me best as a sort of librarian, perhaps. A servant within the Oubliette Arcanum, a vast and mystical library of hoarded knowledge, deep within the Fortress of Memories, the stronghold and bastion of my lady and our queen, whom you likely know as the Raven. In service to the Raven Queen herself, I curated the scrolls and tomes, grimoires of that lost and forbidden palace, delving for the mysteries and scrying for lost knowledge using the magical traditions of my people, the Shadar. And for many years, decades, I devoted myself to that task, reading sacred, lost, ancient, and forbidden texts. And those texts detailed rituals that were both wondrous and terrible. I developed a familiarity with the labyrinthine halls of the Oubliette that became as familiar to me as the scars which lattice my own skin. I emphasize that I was familiar with that because my memory is now somewhat frayed. And where before there was a mastery of sections of knowledge contained within the library, there is now a vacancy which has been inflicted upon me, which I will describe what I can. There was an event that transpired that changed the entire story of my life, upon which my tale pivots and leads me to where I am now. Occasionally, from time to time, adventurers, heroes, desperate individuals who were driven by the most dire of circumstances would come to Shadowfell. It was a truly desperate gambit, but they would come to beseech my lady, the Raven Queen, for aspects of her hoarded and treasured knowledge, the secrets which she contained within her library, details that were known only to her and her trusted servants. One day, such a visitor arrived, and it was unlike anyone or anything I had ever seen before. She was incredible. She was a powerful force of personality, an elf of this world, of Makara. She had such strength of will and presence, and the voice that she spoke with was infused with such desperation and honesty, but conviction and lack of fear that it came over me as she described to my lady, the Raven Queen, the imminent disaster which afflicted or approached her people. Some calamity which only lost knowledge that she suspected was contained within the halls of Shadowfell could help her people to avoid some terrible fate which was set to befall them. I wish I could tell you more about her, but this is where the holes of my memory are at their worst, or at their deepest, as all I really remember, I don't remember her appearance or her name. I don't remember her face. But I think about her and I remember that she was resplendent. She was radiant and fearless. And something about the passion in her plea and the way that she portrayed herself and the desperation of her people, I was overcome with a sense of kinship, with a sense of responsibility, despite the obvious contradiction between her and her plight and my own life. But this gleaming champion of the elven people on Makara, I felt obligated to act. And for days, for weeks perhaps, having heard her plea, I scoured the halls of the oubliette, digging deeply as something was pulling at my mind, some hint, some subtle nudge in my memory that there must be some clue within the stacks of forbidden tomes that I curated. There must be some solution to the plight of her people. And in time, I found it. Found a tome. I found the secret that she sought. I found the solution to to avert her people's terrible fate. The threads of my memory around this are so frayed, but I remember the hint of this moment when I came before my lady, the Raven Queen, with this knowledge in hand, prideful in my accomplishment that I had solved this mystery, and I held the key to be able to help. And I came before her and I presented this lost knowledge, and I witnessed this chilling, emotionless frost in my lady's gaze, the way that she dismissed my findings, commanding me never to speak of the matter further, showing that she preferred to see the Seldarine people suffer than to relinquish any portion of her secrets. I couldn't understand. I didn't understand, and a madness in that moment. A madness came over me, and with an instinctive foolishness that I don't know where it came from, I challenged her in that moment, and I said to her, "What good is your promise to our people to restore us to Arvindor if you turn your back on those to whom you made that vow?" I don't know what came over me, and I think the only thing that surprises me most is that in response to my insolence, she didn't destroy me on the spot. She did not disincorporate my body. She did not scatter my consciousness to the ether to return it to her cycle. Instead, she just dismissed me scathingly, a twist at the corner of her mouth, almost mocking. And she cursed me as she pointed out her finger and gestured to me, and she said to me, if you bear such love for the Seldarine, then you must go and waste your foolish life amongst them. And she told me that I would have nothing of this place to take with me because I was no kin of hers and I was no Shadar Kai. And as she reached out with her hand, this enchantment came over me, like a building collapsed beneath the quaking of the earth. The meticulously organized cloisters of my mind collapsed. The tapestry of my memories began to unravel. A hole singed through it, with this hero of the Seldarine at the heart of it, and the threads around that hole frayed. And I cannot remember her, and I cannot even remember what disaster she sought to avert or what secret I had to avoid it, and all of the accumulated knowledge which I had mastered over many years in the Oubliette Arcanum, it burned away in a continual thread, leaving me with a tattered rag of memory in place of a woven tapestry. And stripped of that knowledge and stripped of my awareness, my memory, I was cast out. I was banished from the Fortress of Memories. I was hurled through one of the portals where the realm of Shadowfell comes closest into contact with this one, and I was expelled into this world unceremoniously and discarded, without purpose and without a path, only knowing that I had purpose and I had a path, and now that has been taken from me. So, Nashin, you are right that I do not remember. And you are right, perhaps, to not fully trust my motives, but know that I will do whatever it takes to recover that thread and to understand what caused this to happen and what terrible fate I sought to avoid.
We need the DM here.
Okay, we don't need him. We can run our own game.
Well, I'll do his job. To answer
Okay.
your insight question, I was staring at Kalen's mouth the entire time, and I didn't blink once.
You got a pretty mouth.
That's
Got a
creepy.
pretty mouth.
Why are you so unsettling?
Well, you're about to find out.
What if Nashin is that beautiful elf that beseeched the Raven?
He's not. They're
Rack
too
is
different.
taking a big old shit.
Nah. So, just for a contextual question, how many people have shared before the confrontation of this had happened?
Old
It was-
Tally shared at an earlier
Mm.
point, or we thought she shared something at an earlier point.
Just to be, yeah, she did share. And I also want to remind you that nobody rolled an insight check on any of the things she said.
Tally.
One of
Owen wouldn't have if he was there because he trusts you.
yeah, he does. He's just a kid.
And
One
remember,
of the
some of us
things-
might be able to know without insight checks. So
That's not true.
that's true.
It's not true at all. One of the things, Joe, that we also went through is Kalen did a detect magic spell when he was alone in his room, and apparently, like the entire, I don't really remember what it was, but like the whole place is magically infused, like protected, not to spy, but to protect the people that are in there, which was cool.
Cool. So we're staying in a Faraday cage.
Basically,
Well, I feel like Kalen's little story loses a little bit on the retelling, but I hope that was a close enough
I think you
approximation
did a good job.
to what happened last.
Have
Thank
you
you.
read Gene Wolfe?
No.
Okay, never mind.
All right. So DM question I heard.
How thick was it?
Not the density you remember from the first time you experienced it, but more than
The fuck?
Okay.
Nashin getting a half chub over there?
I will. What's the layout of the room? Like, where are we in?
there's like a each room has its own like table, I guess, and a seating arrangement. It's kind of like a suite. Someone could live here long term. It's a member's like domicile. Wash basin over in the corner, a large, you could call it a queen sized, feather bed. Not like elegantly, adorned, but comfortable.
Is there room for all of us to sit down in the middle of the room?
If you sit down, yeah, there's not enough chairs though. There's probably only three or four chairs. So.
Yeah. That
I
won't
will
stop
move
Alan.
to the center of the room and I will put my book down and I will sit down in front of it and I will gesture just to see who will sit with me.
Mazarkine will plop down.
Yeah, I'll sit in the corner. Well, like not in the corner, but like on the floor, out of the way.
I'm not sure after having revealed that much about Kalen's past that he would want to join the sort of circle, so I think I might stay a little bit further back.
Full discretion, throughout my story, I will be trying to get them to come in to sit with me. But okay, I will look towards Kalen and I will say, "Thank you."
With my insight that I rolled to the DM last time, Riker, the 11, do I notice a difference in Nashin's demeanor toward Kalen?
A little bit, yeah.
Is it more open or is it more hostile?
He's very focused on something and very much so like about the story. You seems to be that's his thing, and that's was a enough of a push to open him up a little more, maybe.
At seeing Kalen's hesitancy to kind of sit down and relax, I'm just going to turn back over and just say, Kalen, I think we're all broken people here. You're in company. Relax.
I'm sitting down with him too.
All right.
Unlike you, I know every bit of my past. And I think for good reason, I keep some of it locked away. So I guess I will start from the beginning. I was raised in Kyver. That is a imperial-controlled military port on the west coast of Kralia. My father, the man who raised me, was named Kadok Delorn. Like myself, he was a medic in the Imperial Army, but he was also in charge of all of the medics, overseeing the push into the jungle. For many years, before I was born, the Empire has been in conflict with the people who live there. And as they push further and further east, claiming the land and resources as their own, it's the duty of the medics to keep the soldiers in shape. So they come in, we patch them up, and we send them right back out. Ever since these younger years, I was always drawn to stories of the past and rumors floating around. I had a friend, Rayford, who I traded these stories and rumors with. But one story that every soldier seemed to tell was about the ghosts in the jungles. Kadok knew that I loved to write the stories, and he gave me my first stack of papers and ink so I could write them down. I know how to write in common, but I had always had to draw to make my own system of writing, which is what y'all have seen me write. There's nothing special about it. It is just for prying eyes. I'd ask Haddock if there were actual ghosts in the jungle, and he had explained that they're not actually ghosts. They are very light-skinned people, much like myself. And he told me that I come from these people. And I will take my hood off and I will take my mask off. And you see a very, very white-skinned person. After the first grand expedition into the jungle, Kadok had told me that he was traveling with Horvi Pistachio,
Pistachio?
and Pistachio, and there was a man standing in the middle of the road with a newborn child. Soldiers that were traveling with them were ready to kill them both, but Kadok intervened and saved the child. And the man, just as some of the rumors that I've heard, was captured and was being held. Many years passed. Kadok got me a role in the Imperial Medical Division. Rayford was sent out of Kyver to receive more training, and Kadok and myself had been moved to the front lines of the war. Gemini was almost like a forward base deep in the jungle, and once we arrived there were hundreds of men wailing in pain, dying. All of the medics worked day and night, but more men always came in than we were able to send back out. And after the first few days of working in these tents, Kadok gave me this book. I will put my hand on the book that's in front of me. And he tells me the story about the first grand expedition into the jungles and how I came to be. And as he's telling it to me, I am absorbing every word that was spoken. When he's finished, I go outside. I take the ink that he'd given me and the book. I sit down and I write down the story that he had just told me. And as I'm sitting there writing, two soldiers walk up to me. One of them seems to be very angry, and he begins to yell at me. He rushes towards me, puts me on the ground, and he beats me. I will open the book up to the first page. I have my picture. It took days for me to get back to how I was, but Kadok came to me, he was tending to me, and he had told me that he was in charge of tending to the man that was captured many years ago. He took me to this man, and it was the first time that I had ever seen someone like myself, a pale-skinned person, yet he was much older than me. A few days later, we had received word that there was a second grand expedition that was forming that will be moving into the jungle to create a new town deeper in. I was also told that I would be in the main regiment moving into the jungle, and it was expected that heavy losses and injuries would occur. 7 months we were in that jungle, and there hadn't been a real battle yet. But every day, more and more soldiers were injured, and we couldn't stop. We did what we could, and we would leave them for the next regiment to find. But eventually, we received word that there was a village just a couple of days up. And it was the happiest we had been in 7 months. It was finally about to be over. Morning comes, we push into the village, yet there is no one there. All of the regiments were instructed to meet at this village in the surrounding area, and we would wait for further instructions. Kadok had arrived, injured, much like some of the soldiers that had been, and I did what I could, but it seemed pretty bleak. It was nighttime. It was storming, raining, thunder, lightning, and eventually screaming. The screams got louder and louder and tense, even though it was raining, began to burst into flames. And out of the corner of my eye, I see the man that was locked in the prison cell. I had every opportunity to attack him, to kill him, but as he approached, he bends over to Kadok, does something to him. Kadok is no longer hurt. He seems at peace. Kadok grabs my arm. I push away from him, and I run towards the man, and we run out of the camp and into the darkness of the jungle. I don't know how many days we ran, but eventually we arrived at this very large village. This one was sprawling with life, but there were no sounds. I spent many months in this village, but one morning, just the same morning as any of the others, the man that I've grown to trust grabs me and drags me into the center of the village, and he throws me inside of a newly constructed cage. I had spent days, if not weeks, in that cage, and one morning I had heard war horns. And I see the large force of the Imperial Army move into the village, slaughtering anyone who stands in their path. Kadok is there. It looks like he is looking for me. He finds me, goes to the cage, tries to unlock it, but can't. What seemed like hours, it was over in just a few minutes. There was a group of survivors that had been lined up in front of the cage, and Rayford is there, standing in front of them, pacing in front of the line, and he orders the execution of these villagers, starting with the children. Every time a sword is swung into one of these people, I feel it on my body, and I will start taking off all my clothes down to my rags. The whole time, the man that brought me here is whispering words that only I seem to be able to hear. Then the children were over, so it's the women's turn. The pain is getting worse. Kadok sees me. He sees these wounds start appearing on my body, and I'll start taking my rags off at my chest, and you see that I have all these symbols like etched into my body. Then it was the men, and at this point I am in and out of consciousness. Then it was his turn. Rayford grabs him, throws him onto the ground in front of the cage, and plunged his sword right through his throat. And then as it went through, I saw a cloud of black smoke come out of his throat. And I'll show them my right arm. And then there's these big, intricate etchings all over the right arm. It took me weeks to come to. Kadok had never left my side. and he tried his best to fix these. Kadok had passed away a few weeks later, and I'll show my left arm. There's a tattoo on it, and I'll just say, "As a well-spent day brings happy sleep, so life well used brings happy death." These were his last words. I will close my book.
And it says that in common.
Yes, in common.
Not, and everything else is in some strange script.
Wow.
I think that despite kind of initially being a bit aloof, I would say that Kalen at some point was probably drawn in a little bit to the telling of the tale. And I think that upon the conclusion of Nashen's story, I think probably would kind of get up and maybe look kind of like an emotional wreck a little bit, and probably like walk over to like the farther away corner of the room to try and kind of get some space.
That insight roll was to decipher, if I could, the truth, if there was any behind this, because of what Mazakin has seen Nashen, how he doesn't understand military protocol very well. To see if he was actually
the
in the
story of
army.
him being a adjutant, like as a military corps, to the adjutant to the military, being a medic. He's not under the same structure. You would you would know that the military doesn't. There are medics in regiments, but there's also the doctor corps,
like
that's
surgeons,
on
yeah.
the side. Surgeons on the side, and that's what that part seems true. And then the rest of the story is as colorfully described and as enthusiastic as it seemed. There wasn't any falsity to it.
Was the implication either like direct or sort of subtle that this like dark sort of smoke like force that escaped from the ghost leader like imbued itself into Nashen's arm?
You gonna describe that more? You kind of skipped over it.
I do not want to describe it more.
Okay.
Because that was kind of the impression that I got, but I don't know if that was the impression that player Andrew was trying to give or not. How would we resolve that?
That's up to Nash, and I don't if he wants to embellish it a little bit more to make the story more understandable. That's up to you. I don't want.
I told the story as I wanted to tell it at this time. There is more, but I told it how I want to tell it.
Okay, in that case, I would like to make an insight check to try and understand if this is some force that like from this ghost shaman that is now imbued in Nashen.
Okay.
Because that's what I think I understand, but I'd like to understand if that's the conclusion that Kalen is reaching.
Okay. That's a good roll. It's kind of you're not sure how much of the story, is obviously he glossed over details. You can tell that he's there are more things going on. It was to be a brief and broad overview of what happened.
Nashen, what happened to the child?
I am that child.
So that's why you don't call Kadok father, you call him Kadok.
I see him as my father, but he is not my blood. He raised me as any father would.
Do you know what was done to you by the Anthus?
No.
Do I need to insight check that, or can we play off the last roll?
It's last roll.
What does Mazikeen pick up from?
Still, as much as you've been able to read him, this is as truthful as he can be. You can also see his face now and his body language and stuff, which is distracting because you haven't actually, really seen him except for in his garb. But he's making direct eye contact with you and not faltering or anything.
So is his body just covered in these etchings, or is it deformed or scarred in any other way? Is it just like a physical body that's a little bit lighter with these?
You gonna describe it? Or you want me to?
You can describe it.
Okay. So there is effectively this script that looks very similar to the script that's in his book that has carved itself through the top layer of his skin. The one difference, and roll a perception check for me. This close quarters is probably fine. The one difference, was it the right hand or the left hand in the dungeon?
My right arm was in the dungeon.
Yeah. The one difference is where it seems like his body is in pain, like it's kind of like taut in terms of like you can tell moving kind of hurts a little bit, like he's like got arthritis, except for his right hand where uh, the etching is not an etch; it's more have been just laid on, and it looks it's more graceful looking. There's less hard edges to it, and it's very clean compared to the other ones. Are very, very sharp and rigidly. There's a lot. It looks like it hurt, whereas the other one was the one that's on his right hand is very smooth and calligraphy like, whereas the ones that are on his skin elsewhere is very hacked in, so to speak.
That's the hand that he put in the water of Jazirian.
Yeah.
Well, goddamn, Nashin.
My people are not very welcomed here, which is why I wear what I wear.
You consider them still your people.
They are my people.
What are you doing here in the Empire?
I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that other people like myself do not have their homes taken from them.
It seems like your own people tortured you and imbued you with some sort of curse, and yet you consider them your people and you fight for them.
The only thing you have when you die are the stories that people tell about you. I am a walking remembrance of those people. Every day I think about them, and I don't see it as a curse.
Mazikeen takes a minute and kind of thinks about her own people, what they did to her and what happened to her city, and just kind of nods her head.
Flora's not asking any questions. She's just kind of hands around her knees, sitting on the floor with her head kind of just sitting, staring at the ground.
And that's not the only thing that happens when you die, Nashin.
What else happens?
Well, it depends upon whom you served in this life. And if you serve the wrong people, what happens after is going to be as torturous an experience as you've already gone through. So when you say do anything it takes, just know that actions have consequences that echo past our own mortal lives.
I don't know how to navigate the intricacies of the Empire. It is foreign to me, and my task is difficult because of this. When Sarian was here, I could have used him and his knowledge to achieve my goals, but now he is gone.
What is your task?
I told you I will stop the slaughter of my people and the theft of their land. That is my
How?
task.
How?
I haven't gotten there yet.
If anyone wants to roll a history check about now,
Yeah.
I'll give y'all that opportunity.
I don't think Mazikeen would know anything about it, so.
Yeah, me neither.
Owen would try.
Well, I think Mazikeen might know a little bit.
How would that roll?
You are aware of, and this is the reason why you don't go for, in your case, from your journey, specifically the way you came from the mountain home you went to the east, was because getting past the strait and then over into the jungle of the Anthus over there, no one's ever returned. None of their agents have ever gone that way and made it past the tip of the land there, and almost no ships ever even make it that way, even going out deep as far away from the land as they can.
Not even people who are trained like Mazikeen?
No one's ever made it past. So the route and
That's very interesting.
the route is to go the other direction. You don't go through that space between the Arctic continent and the southern tip of Kralia. That area of the jungle with the mountain there, and it's known geographically roughly what it looks like, but there's no details. It's a mystery. Joe, you know, and this is like kind of like tales. This kind of just spreads everywhere, just from kind of gossip. Is that the Zuridon Empire it's kind of like a Vietnam in a way, where they've been trying to do this for a long time, and they continue to fail, and they're not doing very well at it, and it's become a kind of a joke to be conscripted. And even over in the Blood Coast where you were, they don't really have like there's a little bit of, especially out of the Empire, there's a lot of people just kind of joking around that they don't have what it takes to make it happen the way that they used to. 1,000 years ago when the Empire was formed, they were much more able to, like, there was no question. But now, whatever it is that's stopping them is really stopping them for whatever reason. Beyond that, none of y'all have any like intricate would have done the research to know about like what has been reported to the results of battles and stuff like that. So that's too much fine detail.
Owen would assume that that's common knowledge. So I'm probably not going to say
Right.
anything on it.
It's just like street gossip. It's like
Yeah.
street gossip. Like your relevant thing. It's like, imagine you guys are in like Germany or something, and then people are joking about how the U.S. can't take care of Vietnam. Like the problem is just like it's become a persistent thing. It's or the war in Iraq. Like how do we win it? It's never going to happen. Kind of thing.
Is this a territory that's where the god beasts are?
Roll a history check with. Should I just change the DC? Go roll a history check. They're in the wilds mostly is where the primitive up where you've heard of them. Yeah, this could be one of them. Like maybe there is one that calls it home there, and that's maybe what's sort of to do that. But in reality, the god beasts are more of a myth. It's kind of like they don't exist in the same way that the other campaign was like that. They're just kind of like they're more of a folklore thing, and they exist as legend on the periphery of people's minds as a cool topic, but they are real. But
yeah, I mean they're incipient right now.
Right.
They're not like formed. Okay, I'm just curious. Well, Nashon, that certainly is an interesting story. Thank you for sharing. I think perhaps Flora, it's your turn.
Well, my story is a lot less intense than both of yours. I was born into a wealthy family, regal, you might say. I am a wood elf. I identify as one. My father is not a wood elf, but my mother is. And I grew up in a large elven city. I hated every moment of it, and I didn't enjoy the classic things. Being in the city, being around people. My best friend growing up was a rat that I found crawling around the castle. I spent most of my times outdoors and trying to find my way closer to the woods and into my nature where I felt comfortable. I left my city and my people because they hold so much power. They have so much authority over the lands that they have and the surrounding lands that aren't theirs. And I can't be a part of that. I have seen traveling groups try to venture onto our lands and get lost. And I've watched people that aren't my own try and help them and to help them find their way out. And the lands to the south are terrible. I've watched so many gruesome things happen, and there are wars raging all over the country, all over the continents, and my city sits unscathed. When we have so much power with the magic that we wield and the people that we have and the gods that we serve, and we don't do anything to help the people around us. And so I left. On my 100th birthday, I told no one that I was leaving. I took my own name and I left. And in my venturing, just south and trying to find out what life was like for the people around me, the people that didn't have the luxuries that even the commoners did in my city. That's how I ended up in prison the first time. I was just venturing and I, wound up in prison, and that's where I met old Tally right here. We sat together in prison. We saw each other, and she was my first and only human friend.
Well, humanoid friend.
I promise you all, she was so beautiful before.
It's true. The years have been unkind.
But that is where I met her, and
Where she killed me.
I was asked. That is how we kind of made a pact to get us both out of this prison. She needed something from me, and I expected something of her. It took a little longer than expected for me to get out of prison, but at least I didn't have to die for it. There are bits and pieces missing here and there, but like I said, my story is not one of hardship. It is one of
Oh man, talk through prices.
It's not one of hardship, it's one of network drops.
One of networking issues. Oh, no.
Switching it up, boys. But yeah, it's very simple, and this is what I had to do to find out how to fix what my people have done and how my people have neglected the world around us. It's my own. I didn't have to do that, and I think I caused a lot more trouble for myself than I probably intended, but I think this is how it had to be.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Whew.
Hey.
How thick was that one?
Will you please stop asking
That is
that?
so creepy.
About the same as Kalen.
Can you make it thicker for Nashin?
What the hell?
What city are you from?
Retha Corellia. I'm sure most of you haven't been there for reasons that you can't really get around.
I wonder perhaps if that is where to go.
Can you say that last part again?
I said I wonder if perhaps that is where I have to go. Retha Corellia.
I offered to take you before I knew your story, and now I will if that is something that you need to learn to remember. Okay, sorry, I thought I was about to get disconnected again.
I feel like I need I need some thread to follow that is not simply thrust upon me. You know, I do not wish to let down the glory of Squad Dormir, but this, was... I didn't have a choice in... I need some clue to follow that gives me a path to take, not a path I'm forced to walk. At the moment, I don't know anything aside from the fact that Wraitha Corellia is where your people are from, and it seems like the only direction where I see right now that I'm likely to find answers.
Well, we must try then.
I'm not sure we can. We are wrapped up in things that are... If I remembered half the things I once knew, I could get myself there. I wouldn't be beholden to you all. I wouldn't be a burden.
You are not a burden.
I think you're a pretty big burden, Kaylin.
Oh, you shut up.
Owen, I think it's share time for you. But let me go use the water closet right quick.
Funny.
We have a closet with water in it? Alright. I guess I'll wait for them to get back.
Yeah.
Hmm. How you doing, Telcar?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Just working a lot.
I'm sorry, man.
That's good. End of year is always crazy in this business. I'm going on vacation next week. Next week, but the week next weekend.
Yeah.
We're out of spoons, so I'm having to eat my granola with a tablespoon measuring spoon.
Nice.
Hotel life, hashtag. Yeah, Nash, and it's a super big shame that Sarian had to depart unexpectedly for no real reason.
I had him wrapped around my little finger. I had a pretty good story too for him.
No. Woods has a really low insight in real life.
my plan, if I got caught, solely relied on Sarian. Now, I don't have him anymore.
You got Mazikeen though. She can become Sarian in a couple of levels.
Be right back.
Accusatory chewing.
We were watching your little hobbits, Joe, when they were in the room.
They're so cute.
He's just been like wanting to get into everything, and I'm just like, no, stop, no, stop.
They're like little cats.
Yeah, except the difference between cats and children is that children occasionally will listen.
How old are they?
The one you saw running around.
I can't hear you, Joe. You cut out.
Oh.
Good now.
All right. Oh, come on.
You said the one we saw running around. I like that name, Aiden.
So cute.
What? In Celtic or Gaelic? Okay. Okay. You could call them the Song of Ice and Fire.
Hey, why'd you move your computer? So why do you get it now? On the left side of that AC, is that a helmet or a lamp?
It's not a fencing helmet. Where do you live again, Joe?
What?
Hey guys, sorry that took a little while. There's a friend who's over downstairs, so I emerged for a minute and then had to
No worries.
say hi.
Me too.
Where, Joe? How far away from you are from us are you? Oh, right. Yeah.
Utah.
I hear that's where the internet comes from.
That's where they make it.
Yeah, that's where it comes out of the
They make the
tubes.
internet and white people in Provo, Utah.
Yeah.
Brigham Young.
Man.
I'm glad you're not Mormon, right? Right? Say no more, friend.
Yeah, sorry it took so long.
Yep. That's where the shop was.
Where is Merrick now?
Did Merrick teach you how to heal and how to wield power, fury of the storm, the way that you do? You have learned how to heal. Do you know anything about healing of the mind? Thank you. Don't trouble yourself too much on my account.
Who was the person in the dungeon?
With a name like Chank.
Is it Chank or Chink?
Oh, God!
Chank
Chank.
with an E? Okay.
Owen Hitler with a friend named Chink.
What was y'all's hooligan group name? Axis.
The Chinks.
Slipper fingers.
The Sticky Bandits.
The
Wet Bandits. The Wet
slick.
Bandits.
The Wet Bandits. Yeah.
The slick wrigglers.
That was y'all's calling card. When y'all weren't burning buildings down, right?
Well, now that we all trust each other, what the hell are we...
Quite the leap there, Mazikeen.
Now that we all fully trust each other 100%.
No. Would you like to go through your backstory a little bit?
I already have.
I think if anyone has shared the least, it's you.
That's not even true. I shared before anyone else shared. You all know me. I'm 22. Spry.
I think that
she looks like an hag.
I think that any tale Mazikeen would tell us would be mostly fictional, so I suppose we can all just save ourselves the wasted time.
I have never spoken a lie to you, Kaylin.
Kaylin,
How
I
thick was
agree.
that? How thick was that? I'll insight check it. I'll insight check.
Yeah.
Me. She wasn't telling a story.
I lie like an Aes Sedai, If anyone's read Roll of Times.
Did it roll?
No, you got to refresh it. It's a bug.
Oh, okay.
What's the bug?
Sometimes your rolls don't work. Like when you click on a skill ability, it won't do anything.
Okay, interesting.
She's never told a lie.
I said I've never told a lie to Kaylin.
Oh, that's I didn't hear the to Kaylin part. Okay, but never told a lie to Kaylin. Okay.
Seems legit.
Is it? Is he there? Oh.
Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, I was reading.
We can't tell if it's just Riker or if he's frozen.
Guys, he's just thrown up a JPEG image and walked away.
Walked away, yeah. I would say that you probably have some amount of doubt still, like especially with the number of different types of personas that you've been introduced to, but it's really hard to tell in terms of if there's any like personality tics or anything that would give that away.
Who hasn't told a lie to Kaylin? Tally, Mara, Mazikeen.
Was that a question asking?
Yeah, I asked you. I asked y'all.
I haven't told a lie to Kaylin. I have never lied to Kaylin. I still don't. I still don't think you understand the point of all these characters I play now.
Well, now's the time to tell.
I have told you that I'm from a city that is very old, very powerful, and hidden, one you wouldn't know of. And we were entrusted with a great artifact, one that we must keep safe at all costs to protect deities from rampaging through our plane. Joe, are you talking to me? Okay. And I've told you that we failed in that task of protecting the artifact, and the consequences haven't been seen yet upon the plane, but they will be, because something far beyond our power has taken one of the most powerful places in Makara and sieged it and killed my people, the faithful, the Vierni. And the same place that Floor had mentioned that of being a terrible wasteland, I was tasked to infiltrate that place as a spy and to ensure that any knowledge of our city was kept protected and kept out of. We spun tales, and we're a storyteller as much as you are, trying to provide misinformation and protect the city and protect the fragment. But I saw things that could not have been possible upon the plane, and I warned our leaders. I warned the High Archon, and they told me I was a liar, and they threw me in prison, where I met a little half wood elf And our city fell to an invasion, and I did what I had to ensure that I could escape. And I made an agreement, one that transcends mortal life. And that's my story. And the characters, Mazakine plays Tally, Mara, Elbow Higgins, they're just distractions from my task.
Where were you put into prison?
My own people threw me into prison
Where?
outside our city in a place called Sioturma.
Sioturma?
Vsoturma.
Where is that?
Very far from here. Do you know where Charkeshnar is? Charkeshar?
No.
I think you would know generally where it is. It's
Well, the
effectively-
continent, yeah, I know the location, but not
Yeah.
not anything specific.
It's just the Orcish nation.
Do I know
Everyone knows
where
about
Rayma Corelia is? Ratha Corelia?
it. Yeah, the
North of Charkeshar.
yeah, the map that y'all have is what I would consider relatively at least accessible common knowledge. The one that's like the one y'all can access.
Those orcs, those people somehow they made pacts of their own, agreements of their own, and they broke the pact somehow. And bands of roving orcs, which should never have been able to assail our city, stampeded through it. There were thousands of them, with creatures we hadn't seen before. And I don't know why it should not have fallen. It's not possible to siege that city. It's impossible. And somehow they did it.
So you're trying to restore what was lost.
The fragment. Yes, my people. I don't know what happened to them, but the punishment for failure, our people failed. It doesn't matter what happens to us now.
What happens when you succeed?
Oh,
Candy cane.
that was adorable.
What the fuck was the question?
such a polite youngling.
What happens when you succeed?
If I succeed, eventually I will die, and then I will go on to serve in another form.
Is that odd? Like what he just said? Or is
She?
that or what she what she just said?
I mean, you've probably heard that people make deals with, devils and stuff like that, but you probably only thought it was more of like a folk tale for the most part in terms of your exposure to it. You're not really a widely traveled person in terms of seeing where if there was people doing that kind of thing, they were secret to you. Like nobody in the military had that. You're aware of magic users and maybe some discussions about different, some of the wizards in the army that would have discussions about where that the power sources from and all those kind of things, but you didn't really pay attention to that. So I'd say it's kind of curious, but not really impactful to you. Just as strange as your own reality.
Satisfied, Nashin?
A bit.
Well, now that we all trust each other, I think we need to decide what we're going to do from here. Because we all have knowledge that I think we need to discuss about what's happened, about what is currently happening. And I'm sure tomorrow we're going to have new information from whomever, and then we're going to have to make our own. I, for one, have to follow through with deposing the Igmalars. But after that,
Mazakine and Flora, are the elven people charged with one of the shards?
Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Yeah.
Okay, just making
Yeah.
sure.
I'll give Flora a knowing look. Like, I suspect they are, but she hasn't said anything.
I've mentioned it. But yes, I think that is part of the reason why it's so hard to get to the city from outside of the city.
And where is the third?
I don't know. But I suspect that whatever calamity was befalling the elves of Makara is related to what has happened to you. I will put my hand on Kalen's forehead and cast Restore Memory.
What? Is that a thing?
I'm just fucking with you, sorry.
What?
It's a good question, Kalen. You're the most learned librarian here. You tell us. I don't know. Do I remember what it looks like? Yeah, we've talked about this so many times. I don't remember what the final thing was. I'm sure at some point when I took my the Murmur's Oath that it was done in front of the fragment. Do I know if it's like little or if it's a large thing?
Yeah, I thought we did talk about it.
I don't remember.
Message.
I don't remember if it was a.
Wouldn't I know too? But I don't think we've talked about it.
We have talked about it to a little bit of an extent. I sent you an image of the shrine before.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So out of game, the shard that you were tasked to protect has been taken.
It's a fragment that my people. It's called the. Yeah, it's the fragment of Sahariu that Riker talked about in the opening monologue.
So then, by it being gone, then the city fell because the fragment was no longer there.
The city fell because something wanted it.
So then, her people, Flora's people, have a fragment, so their city's nice and strong still, and then there's a third fragment somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's how. I think we're all on the same page. I don't know.
If these fragments are as powerful as you make them seem, both based on what you believe to be the unassailable strength of Charkashnar, as well as Flora, the control you described over the region around Retha Corellia, surely the third fragment must lie near the heart of the Empire. That is the only other concentration of power that I have learned of in my short time here.
It's possible, but just because the Empire became powerful long after the fragments were created. They are Sahariu, split. At least it is to my understanding.
Well, perhaps then it lies in this impassable region to the north, east that you described, that no one can pass through. That sounds much like, Flora, what you described of travelers becoming lost in the wilderness around Greater Aurelia.
The fragment is not necessarily something you can take with you. It's more of it's more rooted in its own physical location.
That would make sense.
So I
Sahari,
don't. I want to do something. I want to cast a minor illusion, and I want to project a small image of like a Marut in my hand.
Okay.
Kalen, do you recognize what this is?
an inevitable? Well, I mean, the player does, but I don't know what Kalen would know.
I'll just do it. A kind of not a perfect drawing, or there's some semblance of it, but that's what you'll
Marut.
see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Presumably, any
Galen probably
knowledge,
wouldn't have any knowledge of it. Yeah,
any knowledge that I might have
unless he
had of
describes
this.
it, you might get something like what it's doing. I might give something to you.
These creatures are powerful. They helped construct our city, Havilarok. They are servants of Primus, and Primus, the deity, enforces the pact. And these creatures would come and go through our city, making sure it was defensible and making sure it never crumbled with the ages. There is no possible way that any assailants should have been able to overcome the strength of these creatures, on top of what my own people have perfected in 6,000 years. Whatever is assailing this plane is attempting to destroy the last safeguard that prevented devils and celestials from rampaging freely upon this plane.
Mazikeen, was it at all possible that the attack upon this city came not from without, but perhaps from within, if the defenses were as unassailable as you seem to believe?
Of course, but we were called the faithful. Our kind were shared a bloodline, and whereas many of my kind found themselves driven away by our forms, we embrace the power and we embrace the suffering that accompanied it, because we understand that only in suffering can you achieve anything great. Only in suffering can you ascend. And
I
our
think there's much truth in that.
our people are not like any other people on Makar. Family is meaningless. Friends they don't exist. Flora was my only friend, and we only have rivals, and we only have power because only the most powerful are chosen to safeguard the fragment. It is of the most importance. Friendships They don't mean anything. It is only our oath.
Well, I think you pose the right question. We need to decide what it is that we are going to do from tomorrow when the leadership here in Kelverat comes to inform us of what our small role to play in this grand play is envisioned to be. I'm sure that I wish to simply accept what we are prescribed to do.
Yes, I desperately want my form back, and I must complete a task before I can. And again, I will conjure in my hand minor illusion, the form of Mazakin. It's a young 20s human, female, darker hair, striking, but not like a queen or a princess, just a more regal, but determined figure.
And this was you before Flora killed you?
Yes.
Why did she kill you?
It was the only way to escape the prison, and it was the only way to, in turn, find and help Flora. And when I died, I woke up in this globular form.
And you knew you would.
No, no. I was instructed. And I woke up months later. Time passed differently when you're just a soul. It's probably akin to what Kalen has experienced.
Who instructed you?
Imperious.
The bird.
The raven. Yes. The bird. Do I get the sense that Nashin doesn't know who Imperious really is?
Maybe
We've talked about it.
maybe didn't like really put much stock in it. I don't know, like what is.
I mean, when
Imperious-
I wasn't there when he was not a bird. When he
I don't
turned
think,
into
he's
the little demon.
he's never been in imp form next to Bastion before. Yeah, I don't
Yes.
think they come up in conversations.
The bird. The bird is just a messenger.
I think at the moment we don't know what choices are before us. I think we're guessing. I think we need to wait to receive instruction tomorrow, but I think we need to know ahead of time what sorts of plans we would be prepared to go along with.
Well, I must personally dispatch one of the Igmalars to fulfill an agreement.
It seems unlikely that you'll be offered that chance.
Well, perhaps I misspoke. I just need to ensure that a particular Igmalar is dispatched. So if I lack the chance, then as long as it happens. But I must see this through, and then afterward, I don't have the power or the knowledge yet to do anything, so I intend to seek both, and commit for the time being to Squad Duramir and see if Lormir, as you have previously said, Kalen, can offer any guidance whatsoever. If he can't, then I will seek knowledge and power elsewhere. But the towers seem like a good stepping stone to achieving both of those ends.
Stepping stone that still seems miles away to me. I don't see that we are anywhere close to even the front doorstep of any of the towers.
We have some time, I believe. Havilarok fell not a year past, and the things I fear have not yet come to pass, so perhaps we can gain what we need before the end comes.
Very well. I would request that once we learn tomorrow what plans are recommended for us, that we find an opportunity to reconvene before committing to a course of action.
Well, that is very wise. Agreed.
For now, I think at least I need some rest. Today has been tiring.
To say the least. Would you like some cheese before you go to sleep?
Just a little nightcap. Who knows what it'll do?
Death cap.
Death cap, yeah.
No, thank you, Mazakine. Unless you think this cheese has magical curative properties, I think.
If it did, it wouldn't last for long.
I'll pass. Last time I ate it, my face went numb, and that makes me feel uncomfortable.
All right, you know what? Fine then. Give me your cheese.
I was only offering it to Kalen, and I will give him one dose.
Let me get my sheet.
You're gonna want to roll, Kalen. We're down to 25 doses, boy.
If this goes horribly wrong, I'm holding you accountable, Mazakine.
If this goes horribly wrong, you can hold Arnott accountable. Or yourself for not having the courage to milk a catablepa.
All right, roll a d6. Tell me the number and then roll another one.
1 and 6.
And 6. Okay. Oh no. Oh god. All right. So it has like a kind of an acrid but pleasant bitter taste.
I like that.
It's like kind of like a very pungent Swiss cheese, but has a very it's not porous like inside. There's not gas bubbles, but it's very tangy. You like chew it around for a little bit, and it's not too bad. And all of you are watching, kind of like expectantly waiting for something to happen. And Kaylin, you kind of trying to get it out of your teeth, and you push against your teeth, and one of them starts to kind of get loose, and more teeth started to get loose, and then you all watch as he kind of if you bring your hand up, your teeth actually start falling out.
Oh.
And new teeth are growing behind them.
Oh no!
And it's like they're like coming back in quite rapidly. It's like imagine like what Wolverine's teeth would regrow like, and it's like what the fuck? And there's piles of teeth on the ground now, like a
Mazakine!
and this happens for half a minute before it stops, and your teeth are back to the way they were before, but there is a little pile of Kalen teeth on the ground.
That was wonderful, Caleb.
What?
Was your face numb?
There's no other side effects except for that.
I'll pick,
Dark rot of Cathol.
I'll pick
What?
up a little Kalen tooth. Is it like a physical thing?
It's an actual tooth, yeah.
I will pick them all up. Do you want your teeth back?
Yes,
could
I want
use
my
them.
teeth back. Give me those.
I will try and give them to him, but like keep one or two in my.
Sleight of hand check then.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
My passive perception is 11.
Oh, baby.
There's a good
Oh wait,
30.
no.
There's a good,
My passive perception is 13.
Okay. So there's a good 30 plus teeth there, and kind of turns her hand over to dump it in, and some of them get stuck in her hand. Like you see that, like some of them get stuck.
Give me all of them.
Okay, I'll give him all of them. Here's all your teeth.
This is bad. Do you know what talented wizard could do to me with these?
Can we grow another Kalen? Can we
No,
feed
no.
your teeth?
Stop it.
Cheese?
Stop
we-
it. Give me
Kalen, if we
the
make
teeth.
a mold. Here's
I-
your teeth.
I take a small bag out of one of my many pockets and I put all of the teeth
Okay.
in a small pouch.
Kalen teeth.
What is everyone's reaction to this?
How do y'all react to that? Seeing, you've all seen this thing have different effects now at this point, so you have no idea what it's going to be, and each time it's like on the edge of your seat, waiting for it to show. I don't know. Just you react in surprise, shock, horror. It's kind of like that's the first like kind of terrifying one that you've seen. The flower one wasn't too bad. Like it was like, okay, like that's kind of pleasant except for the person, but it's not like nightmarish.
That is my general response. But I'm just hoping he's okay. You all right, Kalen? Did your face go numb?
Ugh, that was not good. All right, everyone out. I'm going to bed.
I'll kind
I
of show
just start like
Kalen
ushering
that
people
I
to the
don't have a
door.
lot of. I'm missing teeth. Are you sure I can't keep a few of those, Kalen?
Out. Out, 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 out. Take your cheese. Get out.
Flora's just like she's in her mind because after hearing Kaylin say like, you know what a wizard could do with them, she's wondering about planting them, maybe growing little tiny
Kalins.
little, like if you just put them in the ground, maybe.
What would happen,
Huh.
little Kalens?
I'm gonna be trying stealing those teeth for the rest of the campaign.
There you go. All right, so you all make your way to your rooms to find rest for the evening. Conversations had and spent, hopefully feeling a little bit more trustful of the members of your party around you. You all find rest easily and wake the next morning to the sounds of the city as dawn breaks. If anyone wanted to wake earlier than that, I wasn't. If there's anything specific you wanted to do in your rooms, let me know. Otherwise, we will move forward.
Okay.
All right. So dawn breakfast comes. You all exit your room at whatever your leisure might be, and upon entering the main hall, you see Julio breaking his fast at the main table. He seems to have just some bread and cheese that he's eating, and if you all making your way out roughly at the kind of same time, he greets you. I don't know if anyone was going to sleep in. Otherwise, I would assume that eventually you all make your way out to the main hall. The other squad, Mogrash, only the Furbog person is there, and only the kind of more demure female Betha. The other ones are missing. Julio comes over after finishing his meal, and I have not heard news yet from above yet on what your next task might be, but I was given word that I'm to provide you with some spending money to go into town and re-equip yourself. I believe that perhaps Geetral might have some task for you, as you are still in climbing certification, but it is wise to spend some of the hard-earned coin here. Just a little bit of knowledge. The guilds use a system of bartering via these, and he pulls out this set of coins that are on the table, and they're not like a metallic coin per se. It's just a kind of a symbolic token that you recognize as the different levels of climbers. So there's a bronze, silver, gold, platinum, etc. There's different like symbols on them that represent the different tiers of quality, so to speak, of a climber. Instead of using vast sums of currency, so to speak, this is a way of us to transfer wealth quickly. And Gitral begged me to give each of you a silver token, and he hands out a silver token to each of you. You'll be able to use this as a way of acquiring goods from the guilds. We, instead of, as I said, instead of transferring gold and platinum gems, things like that, which can be bulky, this is a simple way of hoarding and transferring wealth. I know that he kind of points to Kalen. You had spoken of wishing to seek out a source of knowledge, and I would recommend stopping by the Waterlight facility here in town. I'm sure they can assist you in whatever mission you might have. But was there any other objectives that y'all might have in today's visit to town? I might point you in the right direction.
I wish to know, in addition to the halls of knowledge that the Waterlights maintain, is there any presence, and I apologize as I know they are a sibling guild to your own, but is there any presence of the adherents of Arcanar in this town?
Yes, of course. So they he kind of like motions off down to, like, this would be to the east. Their guild hall is quite large. You're gonna laugh. It's pretty hard to miss. There's a large banner that kind of is I'm sure you recognize the symbol. It's a kind of a play on the symbology of the empire, but they have a little I call it a gift shop, but they do have some amount of wares here for travelers and adventurers to purchase. You might speak with Findalai. She's the shopkeeper that kind of manages the front end of that. Perhaps she might be the first place to stop.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned the name was Fendalai?
Yeah.
Very well. I'm sorry, and I'm sure my companions may have questions as well, but as a last query from me, are there any shops that sort of good, affordable tailors that whom you would recommend who make hardy gear that is well suited for travel?
I mean, we have some that might suit you if you're not wishing to be berobed in the garb of the vanguard. I understand that, but he kind of points down to the entrance of the area here in the. You remember there is a small like shop that's kind of set up.
Okay.
Just talk with Ventus. I'm sure that they have some kind of armor and accoutrement that would befit your station as early adventurers, but just ask, and I'm sure he can provide. And he will
Thank you.
treat you. He will treat you well. He's not. He knows that you are here and would be expecting you.
Julio, I have a question. We had replaced a member of our squad with another, and we need to get her inducted. I'm not sure the process, but within the
Yes.
squad, and probably catch her up with her own weaponry and armor.
Kind of thinks for a second. I can probably go talk with Ventus and have him provide some basic equipment. I don't see that being a problem. I'm sure that Geetral wouldn't mind, but I don't know if he's willing to part with any of the more magical items and things like that so readily. But
I meant more of getting her a climber's.
Yes, that's something that Jormgar is going to have to handle. I know this situation's quite strange, and that was one of the things I think Geetral is handling today at the academy, as well as trying to figure out what the next steps for all of you are. I suspect if you return this evening, he will be back with news and kind of hopefully give you some direction. And I apologize for not having more details, but I hope that a day on the town, so to speak, is a little bit of more R&R. I know you've been through some troubling, stressful times.
Yes. Thank you.
So each of you have, I didn't make the item yet, but it's a silver guild token. And effectively what they are is a way of buying and selling items to guilds instead of paying in cash. It's a currency used inter guild so that they don't have to transport large amounts of wealth. And you can get the idea that the higher tier ones are worth a lot.
One.
I made one in my
one
inventory. If
token.
you wish to copy it over for people,
that works. Perfect. So y'all are still technically bronze level, but he's given you like a tier up of the token to use.
That's cool, man.
There's a y'all will see how this works here in a minute. It makes sense.
I honestly don't know what I should get from Mazikeen. Do you have like a way to prompt us for cool things we might want?
Yeah, y'all are gonna go visit the different shops. It'll be there. That's kind of what's gonna happen. If y'all take your leave from the guild hall, stopping by down at the Vanguard shop here at the front. It's a little 2-story building that's got the living quarters for the shopkeeper, Ventus PC. He was a kind of a diminutive human male in his old, kind of older age. He's not an imposing figure, but you can definitely see that he has that kind of that smart like wit about him. As you come inside, it's kind of arrayed in a standard like shop format. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this back on. Kind of coming inside, you can definitely tell that this is not just a typical like general store. This is definitely a place where the kind of wares and or specialties of what the Vanguard specifically has pulled from the towers that they have for sale currently. Just looking about, you see multiple different, obviously well adorned and high quality weapons. Namely, there is a quite large kind of dwarven runed battle axe on one of the faces there. You see a stack of ammunition of different types, bolts, arrows, some that have different types of heads that are next to it in little trays that you can see that you can assemble your own kind of custom tool types of different types of ammunition. There is a large leather and wood bound crossbow that's maybe a good 4 foot long in beam, and then has a steel or metal banded brace and some kind of mechanism that assists in the loading process. There is a very finely crafted but not elvish bow. It seems to be some of a more of a Nordic make in terms of the draw of it along the wall. And then there is another bow on the wall that has a kind of a, looking closely at it, like kind of I'm just kind of going to go without the RP for this just to make it easier. Going up to it, as you kind of look closer at it, the string isn't actually attached to the binding. There's this little kind of like wispy shadow that's kind of connecting the string to the wood on both ends, and then the string kind of condenses out of nothing as it goes to becoming solid down below it. Additionally, there is and what's the type of weapon for that one? I don't know why I didn't put it in there. It's a large, not like war mace, so to speak, but a versatile mace that has this kind of triple-faced, ghoulish, like figure in terror, kind of like screaming face, like kind of in this like triangular arrangement around the head of it, and it's very ornately carved. Probably amongst these items here, that one item is amongst the highest like craftsman quality, that one mace. And then behind the desk where you see Ventus is where, in terms of like tier of items, like we'll just kind of explain this in like WoW terms, just to make it easy for everybody. Like the items in the front are like maybe green, blue, and then you can tell as you get further into the shop, the ones at the back are the really rare shit. On a plaque mounted against the wall behind, in easy access, is a obviously Nordic inspired weapon. It's got this kind of prow of a ship that's kind of mounted over the center channel of a light crossbow. And on the bottom of that, there's a plaque. On the plaque, the name of it is, and you can see it's in common. It says "Grounding Savage."
Oh,
is the name of the weapon.
oh.
It has these like wings that are kind of like maybe like a Valkyrie's wings for the arms, and it's obviously a weapon of some renown in terms of its quality. It's one you can tell, like all of you can see that. Additionally, mounted in a little kind of glass case on the wall that that is openable. It's locked right now. Is a quarterstaff that, on the plaque below it, the name of that one is the Deafening Augur.
What was the name of the crossbow?
The Grounding Savage. The last piece of epic quality items, so to speak, in terms of the ones that are behind the guy sitting here, is a long pole arm that has kind of a maybe you might call it an Asian styled little red tassel that kind of hangs off of it. It's a good 8 foot in length of the pole, with the glaive head being this long maybe 7-inch long curving kind of lilt to the blade head. And on that one, the words below it is Concussive Gold Dragon. So just to keep it short, since we're running long on the session today, the shopkeeper will explain kind of some of the items to you if you have questions. So he starts with the last item, the gold dragon. Effectively, just without narrative RP here, there are set bonuses in this world. So anything of a gold dragon type has a set bonus. So this one is a specific weapon that has a effect, and then there is a suffix to it. And if you have if the suffixes create set bonuses.
I will hand him my silver guild token and say, 1 grounding savage, please.
He kind of laughs. Unfortunately, that is not within my purview to give you. However, I can, and he kind of points over to the heavy crossbow that's over on the wall over there in the starting area. That item is of trade for this level of token. My apologies, but the grounding savage has been in our ownership now for some years, and we have not had a fair offer for its quality. And just to explain it a little bit, I will tell you the stats of it.
Did it come from the towers?
Absolutely.
I meant to send you the names I came up with, by the way, Riker. I'll
Okay.
send them to you after the session. I have like 15 of them.
I'd point at that one bow with the weird string. I say, "What's the deal with this one?"
What the fuck? Is anyone reading this?
Oh.
Weapon attacks deal plus 2d20 lightning damage.
Wow.
Maybe that's why you couldn't get it for 1 silver token.
Well, okay.
This is sick, Riker.
The bow over to the side, he kind of walks around the corner. He's kind of has a little bit of a limp to him. This weapon is unnamed, but he draws the bow and knocks an arrow and fires it into a target across the wall. And it, as it shoots, it leaves like a little trace of that shadow that's kind of emanating from the string tips, but there's no sound. It's quiet. There's no string sound. It's absolutely silent. Just, and you hear the target, the arrow through the air striking the wall. This is if you want to come up with a name, but this weapon is imbued to strike silently, and to just for your character reasons, it's a +1 weapon. It's a +1 longbow. He kind of like, I think we can let it go for the token, but I am hesitant. It's normally worth about 2, so I can make a deal if we're going to be trading all of them here. I can let that go, but I know that I think Gitral, and he kind of at this point Julio has he didn't come with you. He kind of introduced and then walked away, but I think that's something we can come to an accord on. Was there any other items that you were interested in?
Can I see that that glaive?
Of course, and he brings it down.
I am like a fucking kid in a candy store holding the most awesome
Here,
toy.
let me get you a picture with it.
Was that other crossbow magical?
Yes, it's also reinforced magically. It seems to be, in comparison to the one on the wall, it's like a far cry. But
well, yeah,
he does explain it. It is, and then looking it over, so it has that. It's kind of this reinforced, kind of more industrial look to it, but there is this like scroll work kind of like on it that it kind of reminds you a little bit of some religious symbology. I'll let you roll a religion check if you want to look at it.
Go for Owen first, because he asked about the glaive.
So, whoever's near me, like while I'm holding this, I'm just going to lean over to them and just kind of say, "How much do you think this is actually worth?" So, whoever's near, I don't know. Ooh, pretty.
2 silver tokens.
Are you going to ask him how much?
Yeah,
is this?
yeah. If nobody's nearby is like, oh yeah, it's a lot, or not. But yeah, I'll eventually ask, like, I want this, and how much does it cost?
Okay, 1 sec.
You look good, Owen. That looks really nice. I think you could grow into it.
We could trade it for cheese.
We could trade
Ooh.
Owen for it.
Yell at trouble.
I will trade you one wet boy
That weapon,
for the.
he kind of goes into the history of it. That weapon came from the 50th level of the Tower of Rage when Geetrol, most famously, he kind of goes into this little spiel. Y'all wouldn't. He hasn't explained. He hasn't told this to you yet. Yeah, go ahead.
Is shit just littered all over the floor in these towers? From like. Okay.
Where is my notes on this? I'm sorry, my one note's getting very, very complicated, so I have to find. Should have wrote it down as a link.
Insert awesome item backstory here.
Cool. I love variables.
I just want to go to the water library.
Is that your Kalen voice?
No, that's me. I want to go to
Oh.
the Waterlight Guild.
Yeah.
They've got a few books that might interest me.
Okay. So looking at the character sheet, Metro, I actually like how you have the filters for action, bonus, reaction.
Can you put the inventory back on the inventory screen? Like the number of items?
It should put that
It's
like
inside
in
of it.
parentheses, like next to the left of the name.
Because I also put a bunch of stuff in parentheses, and I didn't know if that was the number or if that was me putting stuff in parentheses.
Oh, I see. I could see why that might be confusing. Yeah, that is supposed to be like the number of
Okay.
items in that stack.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, I don't know why I didn't say it, but I remember the story. So, on the 50th level of the tower, he kind of goes into this like storyteller's kind of prose. On the 50th level of the Tower of Rage is, some might call it, an impassable challenge. The five, as they are called, are guardians of incredible power. Typically, in the past, climbers would trick or deceive these entities to pass by, and that was a challenge of its own right. Not all are as of fine prowess as Geetrol. He, in his own way, challenged each of the five to single combat and bested them. It was an unheard of event in the history of the towers. However, solving the puzzle this way, in that manner, revealed something that has allowed the Vanguard to grow into the fame that it has now. In somewhat of a respectful manner, the Guardians now grant Geetrol passage with no contest and revealed to him we should say, cache of weapons. This comes from that cache. None other have met the challenge of the five, and only Geetrol knows the minute details of it. You should ask him. He will gladly tell you the story, but many of these come from that trove of finely crafted items as this, and he kind of takes it back from you and puts it back on the wall. Just as a reference, since you seem to not know, this glaive is... Last Geetrol said he would only let it go for a platinum coin.
Really?
I have 6 of those. Can we get 6?
A platinum guild coin. I'm sorry.
Oh. Well, no take backsies, so we'll take 6.
he kind of goes around and points out the rest of the items. Most of the things that are in the silver tier are in that +1 category, so to speak, in the middle, and then there are common items as well that he has. So
In the interest of
point back at the wall, and I'm just going to be like, that will be mine.
How much? I'll hold up my coin. How much is this worth?
he kind of points to the items that are in the middle, like over. He kind of points them out. That it is worth what that is. If you're looking for a gold value, I could say maybe 1,200 gold, but that's subjective.
1,200 gold. Holy moly!
That is why we don't really use gold to transact currencies, because it's, imagine carrying all that around. That's a lot.
Is there anything, in the interest of time, is there anything in here that jumps out to Kalen as he's perusing the shelves that would be presumably to
Swords
him within the
yeah.
price range?
It seems to be mostly weapons here. They don't have any blades that he is really interested in. Mostly they're heavy blades or heavy weapons. There doesn't seem to be really much in this. Based on the tale, it seems to be like more of a martial.
No problem.
A martial rewards that they get from their expertise is in handling that kind of thing, and that seems to be what the Tower of Rage produces.
Martial rewards, no swords. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with you. Yeah. So the proprietor's name is Vencis
Picey, Pycey.
Vencis. Master Vencis, if I may please, I require 2 pairs of your thickest, most sturdy woolen traveling socks.
More than adequate, and he kind of points over. There are regular supplies here too. Everybody seems to have that.
How much do I owe him for? How much do I owe him for socks?
That is on the house. Julio said that I should just help equip you with basic supplies and gear, just because of your experience, and that is.
And just right there in the middle of the store, Kalen sits down on the floor and starts changing into the new socks. And
the elves are certainly a proprietor's bunch.
I need just a light leather armor. I don't have any armor.
So effectively, if y'all are missing any adventuring gear of the starting quality in terms of what you would have,
okay,
you can get it here. Beyond the resupplying in terms of travel kits, backpacks, that kind of stuff, he's able to provide all that stuff.
So like studded leather armor is fine?
A basic armor, yeah. Even if it's not beyond one that you were granted at the start, like it's any of the common items.
I would wish if that offer's on the table, I would wish to trade out the short bow that I traded my longbow to Flora for her short bow. I'd like to trade a short bow back to get a longbow.
I was gonna get a longbow and then give you back your
Okay,
longbow.
either way, I would like a longbow.
Okay.
Somehow.
Yeah, there are standard, like I said, a standard equipment here that he's just kind of giving to you as a thank you and as a just to prepare you for whatever's coming. You have not spent the silver token yet. None of you have, but that's what you have available.
All right. Is there any type of more hardy or any specialized hand axes? Because if not, I'm going to just pick up a second one.
It's just a standard arm. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pick up a second hand axe and some
so he's kind of marking all these down and kind of keeping track and kind of going to expense it to Geetrol. Like that, it's his own. It's Geetrol's money that he's doing, but it's like, he's has to write it off or whatever.
I would like to, good sir, I would like to know about this other more reasonably priced crossbow. It's reinforced with an industrial look.
Right. So that one, it's heavy. It's a big crossbow. Like it's like 40 pounds, and it draw weight's probably at 150 when you crank it. It's a big crossbow. It's
bigger than you.
It's effectively, it's a +1 weapon. However, there is, if you look at it and inspecting it, there is some religious symbology on it, and I will let you roll to see if you recognize it.
Do I get my short bow back when they're over here exchanging these bows? I want to make sure I get my short bow back. That's
So 17.
Yep. It takes you a second to kind of think about it, but there is a very like indicative like it's not script per se, but the symbols that are going kind of remind you of a deity that's been kind of only named and is long since like either passed from the world or doesn't really seem to be worshipped anymore. But its name is Mystria, Mystra, and you remember that it's kind of like a god of chaos.
That's interesting. It's just a +1.
Yep, +1 weapon.
Would it cost simply 1 silver guild token for this?
Because of the situation, I can let it go for the 1, but if there was anyone else, it would be 1 and probably 2 bronze. But this is fine. We kind of is acknowledging that the need is there to equip yourselves, and that's the request is to kind of do that. It's at their expense. So you kind of also get the implication that the similar tiered items elsewhere at other guilds might be a little bit more expensive in terms of the things you may have to pay them some gold in addition to the token.
Can I ask the proprietor which guild might have sort of one-handed martial weapons?
I would stop by the adherents. They seem to have more of the fine artisan weaponry like that. And we occasionally get long swords and the weapons of that type from the tower, but it seems to typically provide items that are more of a you kind of like use it's like a two-handed or a larger kind of befitting Gitral's stature sized weapons. I would check with them. They usually have quite a number of items there that would be of benefit to you.
I have more questions.
Okay.
Is this a heavy crossbow?
It's a heavy crossbow.
Is it 1d12?
Yes.
Is that actually worse for me? Because I would have, with the hand crossbow, I have 2 chances to get sneak attack damage.
Right now it is, yeah.
I'm going to get it anyway.
All right. Takes it down and kind of helps you hold it. He kind of like looks at you funny, like there's no way she's going to be able to handle this. And you grab it. And it's kind of like an AR rifle in terms of how hard you have to like. But
you see old Tally with a crossbow as big as she is, like
Okay. So
I want to fire it at the target.
Okay, so you kind of pull it up, and it's a well made like sight, like a iron sight kind of thing down that kind of like helps you like helps draw the eye to like the V of the spacing in the middle where the bolt sits, and it's a thick bolt. It's like a quarter staff sized bolt. It's big, like they're 6-7 inches long, plumed feathers, and like it's iron tips on this one.
Kalen would. I don't know I don't know whether I can in-game RP this or whether it's more like mechanical, but Kalen would try to ask Mazikeen, Mazikeen, I've seen you rapidly fire your crossbow multiple times in a flash of hurried movement. Are you sure you'll be able to do that with this larger implement?
I will fire, quickly reload it, and then fire again in another turn.
Okay, so yeah, she fires it, and then the mechanism is very easy to reload. It has this little spindle underneath that winds it really quickly, and you're able to place another bolt in. It has like a line of bolt holsters along the side that where we can have them quickly to drop in and go. So it will take a turn to reload it, but it is a +1 weapon.
Yeah.
But
like you
not
won't be able to
take a
bonus action
turn.
attack. is
I
what
will
I'm-
not. I will.
Yeah.
I do not have to spend the turn because I have crossbow expert.
Right. He can fire it once per turn. She can fire it once per turn.
Once per turn, yeah.
Yeah, but it's only once versus like twice with that. So,
Yeah.
Oh, I understand. It's
okay.
less good.
Okay. So
I'm gonna name it Big Baby.
Big Baby. Okay.
I'm
So
gonna get Big
if that's
Baby.
all here. He kind of lets you finish equipping yourselves. If y'all have gathered the requisite adventuring gear, so to speak, in terms of the smallest, the common items. That's all. Whatever you want, that's a common item in terms of its quality. That's here to grab. The next place.
Do we
that
have
he
to give you
recommends-
that list now? We tell you what we're
Um,
taking.
Go ahead and just go ahead and send it to me, and just go ahead and put it in your character. Like you should be able to pull the compendium. Or do I
Okay.
need to do that?
No, we can do
You need
that.
to do it.
I was doing it.
You need to do it.
Yeah, so just the compendium and then items, and I was pulling in
Okay.
common stuff from there.
So about that magical longbow,
Yep. Which
how
one?
much is it? The one with the shadow little looking.
Similarly, he will accept the silver token for that one. It's just common arrows, though. Like you still have to use normal arrows. It's not like a magical arrow like that produces out of nothing or anything. It's just a.
So
It
it's just
strikes with
silent.
It's silent and is a +1 weapon. So that means you're
Cool.
It's kind of like an assassin's longbow, so to speak, is the kind of the feel of it in terms of it's very well made. It's just that it's not elvish. It's not like the ones you're used to. It's that enchantment of whatever is making the string be the way it is fundamental to the weapon, and that adds to the power of the striking for it. So that +1 means that you get 1 to hit and 1 to damage.
We're gonna think on it.
Okay. You can always come back. So if y'all want to continue, he recommended heading to the Vanguard, which he kind of points to how to go to that. If that's the next destination, otherwise he will help you kind of navigate, like tell you where to go to get to the other shop. If that's next on the.
I would not go there.
Big Baby.
I'm gonna get Big Baby.
Nice.
So this is something is off here. Yeah, +1 plus your proficiency bonus, plus
You
your
probably in the item card need to set it to use dexterity as your attack, as your ability modifier.
Yeah, it's working. So it should be 3 for dex, 2 for proficiency, 1 for magic, and then damage is not proficient. So yeah.
Yep.
All right. So Nashin is staying. Are y'all going to stick together, or are y'all splitting up?
Well, I don't want to stay. I want to go straight to the Waterlight Guild.
Okay, if y'all want to go to the Waterlight first, it's up to the group. If y'all are going to split up and go different ways or go together.
I'm also keen to go to the Waterlight Guild, although I want to visit both the Waterlight and the Adherents.
In terms of directional, like there's no advantage to go to one first in terms of like you'll pass by and have to retrace. They're both about the same distance away.
If Nashin is more impatient to go to the Waterlights first, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'll try along.
So you make your way down the thoroughfare. There's normal, just like kind of regular stores here beyond the guild halls. They do seem to have some amount of like magical items for sale as well. There's different companies that buy things from the guilds and then try to resell them, being a distributor. Different shops taverns, things like that, as you make your way over to the kind of different district of the city where the Waterlight facility is. It's kind of more of a stone and kind of built up, kind of definitely more worn down than the kind of more wood themed area like where you were with where the Vanguard was. The stone here is definitely one of the like original stone of the city. It's very old. The paths are very worn, but you make your way up to where the Waterlight facility is, and it's in like a kind of like a row of shops that are all part of the same like structure. Like they're kind of just like different flats, so to speak, going in. You recognize the landmark, which was an inn called the Blue Chain, which is literally what it means. Symbol of a chain that's blue, kind of wrapped around itself. And across the street is where you see the Waterlight office, and it's like you're like, there's no way that's the guild hall. There's no way. It's tiny. Like it seems small, but you kind of just cautiously go up. I assume maybe Kalen is first to go in, or who's first to go in.
Just to be sure, we didn't pass the Crimson Dawn place on the way here. Okay.
No.
I'll go first. I'm gonna lead.
Okay.
I want to go.
Okay. So you walk in, and you're expecting it to be kind of like a narrow, like cloistered environment where it's like just like this, maybe like a little alcove or something. You're expecting it to be this really small space, but when you open it up, it's actually like this large and expansive, effectively a library that you're seeing, and then there at the front of it is where there is this little desk, and there's a person sitting at it, kind of scrawling away. And it kind of goes up, and like there's multiple stories to this place that's way bigger than what it should be from the outside. You can look back outside, and you can still see the street outside. It's not like you were transported anywhere, and everyone else files in. They have different kind of books and things on display for purchase, in addition to the archives in the back. That seems to be a different section where people can go and do research. Amongst the items for sale at the front, just to save time, there's a lady at the desk is a female half elf named Ariel. She is very distracted with trying to complete the work at hand, but does take your attention. Specifically, just to save time here. How do I do this without part of it? Let me see. Here, we will. These are all of the scrolls that are on display, in addition to
Your maximum hit points are increased by 10? Oh my god.
Also,
You can grant yourself
Wow.
advantage on any medicine skill.
Also, I'm going to say, anytime we're outside, walking to and fro, just keeping an eye out for any little critters that I'm seeing, because I just want to hold them. If there is anything.
There are some stray dogs and other like cats and things that you see, and you kind of maybe chase after a couple every once in a while, but they kind of like see you and what the hell, like, and take off. You know, like
they're just like city dogs.
Right.
Okay.
But this is what they have for sale here at the front of the shop. In addition to that, you can buy time from them to do research in their archive for 4 gold per hour.
I see. I would like to inquire with the shopkeeper. Of the scrolls that I saw, I am interested in the levitate scroll. That's
Okay.
the only one that is really relevant to Kalen that he sees, but I would also challenge the shopkeeper to say, pardon me, my name is Kalen. What is yours?
I'm Ariel.
Ariel, I've been led to believe that your guild holds sway over magical learnings and scrolls of arcane nature, and that you have stores of such scrolls available for students of the arcane. I've been told of the magical prowess of the Waterlights in this regard. Are there more scrolls available than what is displayed in this rack over here? I'd had it expected, perhaps.
There are
bit
some. The guildmaster tends to keep the availability for such more powerful items. I only assume you are seeking limited and by request. Did you have something in mind?
I do. Yes, certainly. There are several skills which I am familiar with by reputation that I should very much like to learn their arcane workings. Do not know if
waiting expectantly for you to describe them. It seems like they don't just like give them away. You have to know what you're asking for.
Can I so I as a player know some things I'm looking for.
Right.
I don't know how you would recommend I handle this.
Try to describe the spell.
Okay. I am aware of certain beings who are able to conjure the elusiveness, the etherealness of water and mist, and I had hoped, given the name of your esteemed guild, that such scrolls might be available here. I see that you have this fog cloud spell available, but that is quite rudimentary magic, which I'm already familiar with. I'm interested in more in this direction, the ability to whisk myself away through space with an elusiveness of an ethereal step, or to make myself invisible to the eye as I pass unseen.
So you're talking about invisibility or
and Misty Step.
Misty Step, yeah.
With a name like Waterlight, they gotta have those. Come on, man.
She kind of...
It's just water and light.
And I kind of recognizes, and we do have such scrolls available. Typically, we try to keep some of those out of the hands of, let's just say, those that do not mean well. Those types of enchantments can be used for nefarious purposes. She's like really studying, like really looking at you, like deeply, like really like eyeing you. And what brings you to Kelvarot? She's kind of like really like trying to study you at this point.
We are climbers in training who have been recently partnered with the Justicars. Is that the right name? Sorry.
You're talking about the
for Gietral's guild.
Gietral's Stormbane is his, and then it's the Vanguard.
The Vanguard, not the Justicar. The Vanguard.
Yeah, Justinar is the house in the swamps.
And we are here as a brief respite between our travels to recover our strength and to equip ourselves for ever greater challenges ahead. We have not yet chosen a guild, but should you prove to have mastery over the arcane, I know personally I would be quite interested in keeping in contact with the Waterlights as a possible recruitment option for myself upon the completion of my training.
Very well. You seem to be knowledgeable in such matters. May I, and she kind of looks at everybody, may I see your climber's badges? She pulls out a little tablet from under the table and is kind of like waiting expectantly. And it's kind of, she's like it's kind of like a stone that she's holding in her hand that has like this flat surface on it. She kind of like nods towards you to kind of like motions to place it on the tablet.
I'd tap in.
Okay, so when you bring it out, you kind of come up and you kind of like wave it over it. It glows with the bronze light of the initiate level, and she kind of nods and seems to verify. Okay, trustworthy story at least. I can release those scrolls as described. And he says, "How do you intend on paying?"
I had intended to pay with platinum coin directly, not of the climbing medallion variety, but typical currency, as I'd expect these scrolls to be valuable, but less valuable than the climbing medallion. Which I kind of show that I have a silver medallion, but I want to make it clear that I'm not offering that.
Very well. So let's see. She kind of like does some math. Kind of, you can see her calculating. I can let both of those go for. If you have just raw platinum, I can let those go for 45. But otherwise, 450 gold.
450 gold
for both scrolls.
For 2 scrolls. Okay, I can't do it.
One, if you do not have enough, I could let them go for just kind of. Let's just say 215. Let's call it 200 just for one.
See.
If you're in need.
Well, forgive me. I fear I have wasted your time. I had been informed that.
However, I would take your silver token, and she kind of like looks around. Was there any other enchantment that you might be seeking? She kind of like seems to be interested in the token, like as a tool of continuing to barter.
Weren't we told the token's worth 1,200 gold?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would need a meaningfully more attractive offer, I believe, in order to part with this. My hunger for these arcane secrets is considerable, and yet I fear this is an issue of currency conversion that I am not accustomed to dealing with. My understanding is that these climbing tokens are much more valuable than a couple of paltry scrolls.
She kind of nods to that. I'll tell you what, I can release these scrolls for you if you do something for me. In addition to, let's just call it, she kind of like eyes. Are you like present? Did you like bring out your coin purse or anything? She's kind of like trying to eye how serious you are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to spend whatever I have in terms of scrolls, except I'm not willing to put up the medallion right. Unless there's a lot more on the table. I have 139 gold.
Gold, yeah. Okay. How about this? She kind of pulls out a little box. Take this to the master's domicile on the outside of town and return with his signature, and I shall let both of these scrolls go for 150 gold. I need a courier. You seem to be of able body and able mind to do it today. If you could get it there before this evening and then return, I shall be expecting.
I shall do as you ask. What are the directions that I need to know? I'm unfamiliar with the town.
She pulls out the map that I don't have yet and kind of points to a little. There's like these little mark-offs of like the land that's owned by people, and she kind of points to you can see it's like a noble estate that's over to the northwest. It's about maybe 4 miles out of town. It's not that far.
Okay. Well, Kaylin will just take the box and sort of sign for it if needed. And
so she accepts.
I will very obviously in front of the proprietor to make sure it's clear that I'm serious about this. I will cast Long Strider directly in front of her so that I move with an alacrity of an accomplished courier.
Okay.
And that she can very obviously see me casting this spell, and then I'll just kind of I'll just book it.
You're gonna go, okay? You're excusing yourself from the group. Kaylin's hauling ass. So y'all are still here in this shop. The library, so to speak, is at your disposal. There's a fee to study, use their tomes. Otherwise, if you wanted to continue on to elsewhere without Kaylin, in terms of the walking speed to get there, it'll probably take you, with Long Strider on, it'll take you 45 minutes total to get there, drop it off, and come back. It's not that far. We'll come back to your little interaction though if they want to move on.
Owens has a thing he wants to ask while he's here. He was thinking back to a previous conversation that the group had a few sessions ago. Do you happen to have any kind of divining tools or anything that could be used for that purpose?
We have several diviners on staff, but
I'm looking more
equipment that they use. I don't know if we have anything for sale though that would assist in that endeavor. Is there something you specifically see?
I'm needing something like either a small set of dragon bones or cards, something to act as a focus.
Unfortunately, I don't have anything like that, but I do think that you would find such items. She kind of thinks for a second. Where would that be? Should speak to Irvy. He is just down the way. Go a good block and a half, and then turn left. You'll see his shop across the street, across the water. That's where you're close to the river. That's right coming through the town. He tends to have such items on hand. We keep our inventory low here, as you might understand. We're more of a depository of knowledge versus a seller of knickknacks, so to speak.
Irvy?
Irvy, Ervivy.
Thank you very much.
And she kind of looks to everyone else, and she seems to be kind of getting impatient or waiting to get back to work, but is attendant to your needs. If there's anything else I can help you,
I will pull 12 gold out of my pouch. I'll put it on the table, and I want to who do I speak to about finding what I'm looking for?
speak to one of the attendants, and she kind of like points over to where one of them is kind of waiting, that's filing books back over in one of the stacks that's nearby, and they will assist you in your research topics and escort you around the facility. And she kind of puts the money away. This is enough to cover 3 hours of research.
And y'all will come find me when my time's up?
The attendant will be counting.
Okay. Let me mark that. I'm going in, boys.
Okay. Is anyone assisting or following? So you'll have to pay in addition to go with the research. Otherwise, it's just national. All right. So Owen and Mazikeen and Flora are on their own now. Kaylin is hauling ass out of the city, walking twice as fast as a normal person, and Nashin is reading. And by the way, we can keep going today if y'all want to. It's longer than normal now, but I don't mind if we want to kind of catch up a little bit personally.
I have to leave at 3.
Yeah,
So
we're
you have 20
pretty
minutes.
tired over here.
Okay.
I think-
There's enough things that can happen to eat up a lot of time before we go forward. But I think what we can do as a cap to it is research with Nashin. That's the easiest one to do.
Okay.
If that's okay, because there's a little bit of a narrative that happens for Kaylin that I want to make sure we do with enough time. So.
All right. Yeah.
So, Nashin, and the attendant comes to you. And what information do you see?
I'm looking to learn about 2 topics. 1, Jazirian.
Kind of thinks for a second and nods. Okay.
And 2, the Anthu.
Very well. And she kind of like, please follow me. And she kind of guides you off into the stacks and kind of takes you to a section and kind of is describing what you're seeing just for your knowledge. This section deals with legendary tales of deities and beings of the ancient past. And she kind of like thinks for a second and kind of pulls several different tomes out from that section and then kind of motions for you to follow. And then this section is modern histories of the current conflicts of the Empire, think the most recent one was penned only 5 years ago. It should be sufficient. And she kind of like, it's a pretty hefty tome. It's like military histories of the Empire. Takes you over to a desk that's nearby and lays the books out for your disposal, and then kind of just takes she's like out of your personal space, but still like just like observing and watching in a relaxed
Well, if she says
manner.
like the modern one, I would try to figure, is there anything older?
You can fetch something of more of a historical nature, and she kind of quickly goes and grabs a tome that also is more of it's older. It's more of like an encyclopedia, so to speak, of historical events in different regions of the Empire.
Okay, I'll start with the one she pulled for Jazirian.
All right, go ahead and roll me a intelligence check. To see how well you're able to read this and digest the information in the tome. Not bad.
Good roll.
All right. So the tome, it has illustrations to support these. The section of this, it's kind of alphabetical. It's basically a kind of a context story of these different deities that you can kind of get the sense that this is more of like a folk tale storytelling with whatever historical evidence has been able to been found by the author. To sum it up, Jazirian is a coatl deity of community, peace, and learning. It also is very symbolic in parenthood, and the beings known as coatls. And you're like, what the fuck is a coatl? There's a picture of one. It's a winged snake.
All right, that makes sense.
The coatls, which are sentient beings, it describes them. They are beings of lawful good nature that the coatls of Makara believe that Jazirian is like the embodiment of their supreme purpose and fate. It is also their invisible force that he connects all of the strings of reality to the other gods that they worship. He's kind of like the primal entity for them. They thought themselves kind of uniquely fortunate that they were able to understand what Jazirian was, whereas the other races that they believe should also be worshiping Jazirian, they don't seem to understand it the same way. The author writes that he spoke to a coatl that revealed himself to tell this story about their deity on some journey in Kralia. The ways of worship for giving thanks to Jazirian is themes of giving water, and then also through assisting others in whatever way one finds necessary to help that person. It's like a self-sacrifice. And then there's on the back page of it, there's a very well drawn and colored image of a coatl, but it's like much more flourished, and it's rainbow colored, where there's feathers that have like, all the different colors of the rainbow, and it's this shocks you. It looks like an Ouroboros. It's not like an unpleasant. It's not like the symbology is where it's like this. It's this circle where it's kind of coiled around itself, and then the head's looking forward with this very plumed, feathered serpent that's flying. But it's definitely that circle symbology that you've seen before.
So since there was a picture, I want to flip through this book and see if there is a picture of the other, not the one that had the water, but that had the two fires.
Okay. So when you're looking for like the alternate being to this without a name, I need you to roll another. No, this will work for that. You were able to digest it from there. you're not able to actually find anything on like a polar opposite of what Jazarian is in terms like you're trying to look for like the words like evil, like lawful evil, lawful evil, lawful evil,
Well,
lawful
I would
evil.
just be looking for the picture, since there was the picture of
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
There's
So-
not any pictures that describe a snake like flying creature that's an opposite to it. There is one other snake though in this document that is described.
Okay.
My notes on that. There is, you passed by it going earlier through it. You didn't really like see it, but going backwards, kind of as you're scanning through, there is an entry that's several pages long on it's not a worshipped entity by any means, but there is a creature known as Dendar the Night Serpent. It is described as an elder evil of the world that was defeated long ago and struck down into the lower planes of the fabric of reality. It was forced to reside in effectively the anti-life plane at that point is the best way that the author is able to describe that to you with your limited arcane knowledge. It's the opposite of whereas like in the high heavens it's life, below is not life. The description of the creature is it's some and there are the reason why they have descriptions of it is because there are ancient drawings that have been carved into a wall in a very very old dwarvish tomb that dates back before time. They've not been able to date this thing. The author is this archaeologist that's kind of talking about it. It's the description was very clear in the dwarvish language, so they have this evidence in hand that the Dendar is a 300-foot long with blue and black scales, yellow eyes, and then the typical head of a snake, except that it has these very kind of not feather-like, but very frill-like eye coverings. And then the author kind of goes into a kind of aside that he thinks that like the Dendar might be the origin for the Yuan-Ti. He's like, that makes sense to me. He does describe the kind of more folklore, the folk tales of the more recent occurrences of Dendar as more of a boogeyman. He says that Dendar was thought to have been created when the first mortal dream occurred. The entity devoured the nightmares of the living and continues to do so in its prison in the lower planes. It's also stated that there are celestials that speak of that Dendar, that the gods themselves are not even immune from that effect. Otherwise, there's not really any direct evidence of this creature, but it's the only other snake that you've been able to find in the document.
Is there anything that I might have gotten from this book that is along the lines of the creator?
The creator?
Yes, about a story that I heard.
It's not really. There's not a lot of anything that rings to the same level that is overall kind of themes of this is effectively someone that's if you kind of like draw an inference, this person's more of a scholar and not a religious person. So he's putting he doesn't really take these as they are real more or as much seriousness as with someone that actually believes. So many of these creatures, these beings call themselves the creator. It's common. Like these things, they're the source of this. They're the origin of this race. They're the origin of that. And blah, blah. He just kind of like gets cited as cultural significance that these things are cited as the sort, those people believe that. These people believe this. In terms of a single, no.
Okay.
The second tome, and this took you, I would say probably about an hour and a half to digest all of that out of this thing, to go back through, look for the different pieces. So you've completed the first book, and you think you have at least what knowledge you wanted from it. The second book goes into effectively stories that kind of you recognize. The more recent histories one, they are tales of the different expeditions, but embellished to support the Empire. They're not the actual truth, and you recognize it immediately that this is probably historical propaganda used to teach students to keep them in line or whatever. The histories kind of go back in this section of it, maybe about 150 to 200 years in terms of record keeping of the historical events, and they line up with what you know. However, in the second book, you kind of put that first one aside. The more ancient stories, this is more of a pre or like dawn of the Empire era, so more about 1,000 years ago. The language is harder to read because it's not like current and modern common. It's kind of cleared. It takes you longer to take a process through this, but go ahead and another intelligence check on this one to see how well you're able to read this kind of old English, so to speak. 7. So this one's a little harder to read, but you get the idea that the Anthus have been in that forest for as long as the Empire has been around, or even longer. They were cited as being settled there since even the first explorers left the continent, before even like the advent of the sky ships. When those came, travel became a lot easier. But when the people just sailed the water, they first met them, and things were peaceful and very, as you remembering during the time of peace a couple hundred years ago, before the fighting started again. That's what it was. It was a very, very, as long as you don't encroach too far into the land, they didn't do anything. And if you did, they would just kind of deposit you back outside of the forest safely with no harm done and let you be on your way. The one thing that this document does talk about, though, is that my map bugged out. The mountain that's in the center of the forest of the Anthus is spoken about as somewhat of a religious nature. It's a holy center for the Anthus. They did communicate more back then, and they kind of indicated that this location was maybe their capital city, and that's where the source of their power comes from, is that location. Beyond that, it's not really forthcoming. And you can kind of the guy starts to go into talking about his citations and then other historical events that are happening in Kralia as a kind of broader topic and less on the Anthus. So
I would ask the person who was helping me out, where could I learn more about the Anthus here in town?
I think the guildmaster keeps more select tomes of perhaps she kind of looks at you funny, kind of a controversial nature. We don't typically keep many such things here, and she kind of like looks around like on public display, but you might be able to write a petition to see the master, and he might indulge you. He loves talking about the true histories of things, and I see you were curious on the topic. She's kind of really looking at you. You're covered right now, but she doesn't make any kind of implications. She's just kind of curious about. She sees that you're in the military uniform trappings of it, at least.
Will it cost platinum to see them?
I don't think so. I think as long as the master accepts your request for audience, he enjoys indulging those that seek knowledge. But you must write a letter, and I can provide that to him, and he will get back
Is
to
he
you.
here? now?
No, he should be at his estate
Where's that?
to the northwest.
So he could be here today or tomorrow?
He doesn't often come by the halls here. He has his own workings at his abode. We tend to kind of deal with all the administrative tasks on our own without getting him involved. But like I said, your best option is to write a letter of petition, and I'm sure he will see you if you are convincing.
I will write this letter.
Okay, go ahead and roll.
But I don't have
a-
time to write it now. Because
That's
I got to
fine.
leave by 3. So.
Yep. We'll assume you're going to be writing the letter. We can kind of work on that otherwise, and then pick up next week with either the things happen. Like if it's been about it's coming towards the end of your research period. It's been about 3 hours, so there's been other things happening while that's going on. So we'll pick up on that and pick up with the 3 at Irby's if that's where y'all are going, and then Kalen to have things going next week. Now, I need to check something. Am I flying next Saturday?
I don't think any of us can get together next Saturday. I know we can't. We have to go back to Austin.
What is the guildmaster's name? Just so I have it, so I can
She
write it in
didn't
the letter.
say.
Okay. Well, I would ask her what the guildmaster's name was.
Yeah, I think we might not be playing again until like
January 11th.
late January.
On a
Or, like,
Saturday.
mid-January.
Yeah. Yeah, I leave on Sunday this next coming weekend, so and then I'll be in Cancun for the week.
That's okay.
The guild master's name is Trenvalon Dulmagar.
Goldmagar?
Dulmagar.
Goldmagard.
Oh my god.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I got to go.
See ya.
Good
Thank you.
session, guys.
Okay, that was awesome.
I
Thank
was
you.
I knew y'all were going to talk a lot, but I expected more wanting to get out into the city, so I'm glad that y'all went through the full introductions.
24
needed
sessions
those.
in.
Huh?
Only 22.
22 sessions in. Now we got an idea.
Right.
All right. I'll talk to you guys whenever we play next.
Sounds good.
Yeah, if we don't play
Alright.
till after Christmas, we're gonna be settled into our new place, so
No
no
more
more problems.
We could
Yeah.
start landing some of 3 of us could.
Yeah,
That'd be
you
so
wanted to come to our
fun.
place.
Yeah, we could trade.
We
Go
could
back and
trade.
forth.
Okay,
All right.
amigos.
All right.
Cheers, folks.
Hey,
Happy
if
holidays.
I don't see you guys, happy holidays, Merry Christmas,
you
all
too.
that
Yep.
jazz.
Yeah, you too.
We'll
Bye-
catch y'all
bye.
later.
Bye.